Welcome to the Waiver Wire. Waiver Wire. Waiver Wire. Waiver Wire. Waiver Wire. What up? Welcome to the Waiver Wire, where fantasy players become fantasy legends. I am Solo. Debo, Mr. Dannon, moved recently. It's about an hour drive from his house to my house, which is where we the glorious studio that you see before you, the Waiver Wire studio. So it's a little difficult to make him come out here every single week. So you might see some more shows of me doing solo shows. I'm going to try to get some new guests. I'm going to try to keep it fun and funky and fresh. We're going to try a new little layout where I try to stay more on topic. I've got topics here, and I'm going to try to finish one before my brain takes you somewhere else. But who knows what's going to happen? You can't hold me down, okay, algorithm? Fuck you. First down. I told you last week, and I promise I'm a man of my word, that we would talk about conspiracy theories, what you're really here for. Yeah, you want to know, who to draft, but truthfully, you're here to know what I think about JFK. I picked the easiest one to start off. I mean, I feel like that's not even a conspiracy anymore. I mean, Donald Trump almost just outed it not too long ago. But if you think that one person did that, good for you. Good on you to be so gullible and just like, you just believe what they say and you just go with whatever bullshit was fed to you, and that's fine. But there's absolutely no way that was one person. The magic bullet is a ridiculous theory, but I don't know who did it, but I know that someone was involved. Obviously, someone was involved. It wasn't just Lee Harvey Oswald was like, I don't like this guy, I'm done with it. But if you look more into JFK, and I wasn't alive, I wasn't around, but listening to some of his speeches, and the man was coming for anybody who wanted to have power without any kind of oversight or anybody watching over them. He was not about doing things in secrecy. He was about doing things out in the open for all of the American people to see. He really wasn't about big business. He was about the middle class. He was about the little man. He was listening to his speeches, it's really inspirational. He kind of reminds me of Bernie Sanders. So I see why they killed him, but definitely someone killed him. Whether it was the American government, whether it was the Russians or the Cubans, I have no idea, but I know that someone coordinated a perfectly timed. This is the other part of it too. If you've got two snipers, let's say there was two, there might have been more, but let's just say there was two. They fired at the exact same time. They fired simultaneously, almost to the point to where people are like, well, if he was the best sniper in the world, he could have shot that quickly. But, I don't know if Lee Harvey Oswald was the best sniper in the world, but they've tried to recreate it a million times. I've watched it all. It's bullshit. Someone definitely killed JFK. I think we can all agree on that one. The next one that's pretty obvious to me, and it's getting more and more obvious. It's on my brain too because of the Joe Rogan recently sat down with Jeremy Corbyn, who did the documentary on Bob Lazar and is a UFO head. And I feel like at this point, if you believe that there aren't aliens, you're really naive. I've always kind of thought that the universe is so big and there's so much that we don't know about outer space that to imagine that we're the only one that would come up with habitable life is fucking insane. So I am definitely on board with aliens. I don't know. There's a couple different theories of what aliens are, where they come from. There's the theory that they have been here since forever, since the beginning of time, as far as Earth is concerned, and they either crash landed here or they were the first ones to inhabit this Earth, and we are a byproduct of them. They're kind of watching over us because we are them. They could live in the ocean. They could live under the pyramids. There's all kinds of crazy theories on that. That one's harder for me to believe because I truly think we have excelled enough in technology, at least over the last 50 years, that some of them would have come forward and said, we need to watch these little monkeys. They're getting a little too crazy. The other theory is, that they come from another planet, which I could totally understand. Bob Lazar's whole thing was talking about element 115, where it is it turns gravity inside out, I guess maybe is one way to put it, or that it uses gravity to pull. It creates its own gravity. It pushes away and can pull away without any propulsion, without any gas or engine, anything like that. It just uses time and space against itself so it can move willingly wherever it wants. That being a thing and being something that's on my mind makes me go, okay, then it's totally plausible that if that's what they were doing, if that's what they were using, this little anti-gravity, whatever it is, they could have definitely made it to a different planet. My issue is that traveling to another planet for us is so difficult. It's so beyond us at this point that it's out of my understanding. Not to say that other aliens did not figure this out and simple Josh just doesn't understand. That's totally plausible. But it's just hard for me to picture how they got so good at traveling from planet to planet. But if technology is so far advanced, then I could wrap my brain around the fact that they traveled from a distant galaxy, universe, whatever, and they've ended up here, and they're just kind of checking on us because we are a bunch of dumb apes. The last one that they kind of touched on in the recent Joe Rogan podcast I just brought up, and I maybe he's brought this up before, and it's a really interesting idea, is that if, let's say, in the year 3000 or 4000, so far in the future, right? Thousands of years from now. I mean, you look how far we've come in technology in 50 years. Think about how far we would come in 1,000 years, in 2,000 years. Is time travel a thing? Is going interdimensional, jumping through black holes, is any of that a thing? I don't know, but I could wrap my brain around it. Sure. Yeah. Okay. So we get to 3000. Someone comes up with time travel and they say, you know what we need to do? Let's go back and look at the 1970s, the crustacean period. Let's go all the way back to the dinosaurs. Let's go see where we started. Let's go see where we messed up. Let's go see the point in time that was, because, a lot of these UFO sightings are over war zones. They're over very famous locations in Israel and Jerusalem, where we have a lot of Christianity, historical sites. And so it's not beyond my thinking to go, okay, that means that if it is us from the future and we're coming back, there are chances that we are not perfect. Humans are not perfect. We make a mistake. We crash land. And maybe the powers that be have found these crash landings, figured out that these aliens are us from a future distant galaxy. And maybe they've worked it out. Maybe, the big thing that I think pisses everybody off with this UFO, and even Jeremy Corbyn brings it up too, we should know this stuff. I think the American people are smarter than they give us credit for now. It was maybe different back in the 50s where you went, oh, yes, JFK was murdered by one man. That's unfortunate. I am sad and I will move on. Now we don't accept anything. I think that's the biggest thing with conspiracies nowadays. That's me personally. I'm of the Eddie Bravo mindset, which is don't believe shit. Don't believe anything that they fucking tell you. They have a lot of reasons to lie. They don't have a lot of reasons to tell us the truth. What are the reasons to lie? Well, they don't want mass hysteria. They don't want people to abandon a lot of what makes this country what it is, which is the religious background, that culture that is very much in the 1%. I mean, all of the right-wing people are usually on the Christian side that are very faithful. And I could see all of a sudden aliens are a thing. Now you've got maybe a third of the church that goes, what? Huh? So we didn't come from what you said we came from. We possibly came from these things, and there's other things out there. And did God create them? There's a lot of question marks that get brought up if you're a religious person. All of a sudden, UFOs are real. So there's that. There's, what are they doing with this? Bob Lazar was talking about they were trying to deconstruct, they were trying to reverse engineer and figure out how to use this element 115. So for the government that's maybe trying to turn this into a weapon or something far greater than we know, the letting it out there to the public just is like, no. We're going to keep this for ourselves. We're going to figure it out. And then they can know about it later whenever we have a dumbed down version of it, AKA our phones. You think they didn't have cell phones before we had cell phones? They had cell phones before we had cell phones. Okay, people? I'm sorry you can't see my crotch anymore. You can't see my pasty white legs. I cut all that out. I'm trying to get a little closer to the dome, trying to let you see the moneymaker. But yeah, let's go moon landing. Oh, man. Okay. This one I've watched a lot on, and again, with all of them, it's not that I can say like, this is what happened. This is just my brain goes, oh yeah, that is a little, So you're telling me in 1969 that we figured out flight, I think it's somewhere in the 20s. We figured it out somewhere in the 20s. We figured out flight, the Wright brothers did, and it was very dodgy at the first 10 years of flight. It was not a foolproof thing. Lots of planes fell out of the sky. Lots of things happened. Lots of people died and all of that. But you're telling me, so what you're telling me is that we barely have figured out flight in the last 40, 50 years, but somehow they strapped a rocket to a plane, shot the rocket off at the perfect trajectory, and then it went up. They got into the moon's orbit. They dropped a module outside of it, landed it on the moon, went out, walked around, planted a flag, went back to the ship, and then somehow got the ship back home. Now, I will say with all of the space aliens, moon landing, flat Earth is next, you have to accept the fact that NASA might be lying to you. And that's step one. You have to let your mind go to the point that it's possible that NASA's lying to you, that every single thing that NASA has put out has been a lie. Now, I understand that that's a lot of people that you got to get to lie. It's not like you just have 3 people from NASA that are telling us all this. It's not like Neil Armstrong was like, this is what happened and that's it. Don't ask anyone else any questions. There's lots of people that work on all this. There's lots of people that put their blood, sweat, and tears into it. And I am not going to sit here and pretend like that was not real and that they did not do that. I'm not even going to sit here and tell you that we haven't landed on the moon. I think we have. I'm just saying in 1969, there was a race with us and Russia to get to the moon. And if you look at the Stanley Kubrick conspiracy that he, 2001 A Space Odyssey, I think it is, or maybe it was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Again, I'm not an old person. Well, I am, but I'm not that old. And I don't know which movie it was, but I know that there's the theory that he got some astronomical number to make this movie, a number that had never been given to a director before, a huge amount of money in that time. And a lot of people think, and if you watch the movie, you go, wow, where did all that money go into this movie? The special effects and everything are not, I know it was back in the day, it was 1969, but it's not anything to write home about. And so a lot of people have the theory that he took some of that money to shoot the moon landing. And there's a lot of strange footage of the moon landing that looks a little dicey, that's got people kind of defying the laws of gravity, even on the moon. There's a lot of question marks that I have. And it's hard for me to say, okay, so we just now figured out flight, and you're telling me that we figured this out, this very complex thing. That was Apollo 11. You look at Apollo 13 after that, where they were going to the moon, and then shit went astronomically wrong. I think that at some point we did land on the moon. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I don't think we figured this stuff out. I think we probably have. There's a lot of people that work in NASA that would kill me for saying what I'm saying. But do we think that in 1969 they actually landed on the moon. I do not. I think it was a film by Stanley Kubrick, and a lot of people were paid a lot of money to keep their mouth shut. Again, that's the part of it that's the part of Flat Earth that I think I kind of fell out on. That's my next one I got in there is Flat Earth. I was a Flat Earther for about 10 days. I was on it for a while. I watched the video of, there was one of the big, I forget his name, but he was a huge Flat Earther for a long time. He was one of the main guys, and he got to go up above the atmosphere. He hired a pilot or somebody to take him up above the atmosphere and look. And he saw the curve himself, and he starts crying. He comes down, and he's like, it's all a lie, I was wrong. And just watching that video, I was like, oh, man, well, I was in on this, but not if this guy's out. And, the Flat Earth, it's hard to really wrap your head around. Like, what do they really do? They think that you get to a point and you just fall off. A lot of them think that it's like plates that are sitting right next to each other, and that's why in the Pacific Ocean you kind of cross over that, and in the Atlantic Ocean you kind of cross over one of those things, one of those plates. And I mean, I was on for about 10 days. I'm like, oh, okay, because again, I'm of the Eddie Bravo life where I don't believe shit. And I don't believe NASA on a lot of things. I mean, some of these pictures that we have of the globe, wow, okay, maybe it's real. Maybe. If I told an artist to draw the globe, okay? I told a really good artist to draw the globe. I don't know. Can you see where my brain's going? I can see where maybe an artist just drew this, and maybe it's not exactly what they want us to believe it looks like. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe that's all real. There's an International Space Station. There's all these things. It's hard for me to believe they're making all of that up. We have crashes from, pieces of stuff that went up into the atmosphere and came down. We have the Challenger that blew up. We have things that really happened. So that one's tough. Flat Earth, no go for me. Moon landing, aliens, JFK, all three conspiracies that are proven right here on the Waiver Wire. The next one is touchy. Let me tell you, I lived in New York for 4 years. I would try to have this conversation with people about 9/11. It does not go over well in New York. I'll tell you that much. It probably won't go over here right now with no one around. Somebody will come from outside and say, hey, you shut your fucking mouth. But 9/11 to me, man, so much to unpack. I'm not going to go into everything. I'll just say that if you have watched the conspiracy theory stuff on it, first of all, the Pentagon, very strange, very, very strange. The fact that a plane caused that strange hole/damage is very hard for me to believe. The fact that the only footage that's found from that crash is from I think it's like a toll booth or a little entry cam to like a parking lot where they have a side version where you see all you see is a flash come in. You don't see a plane. You can't really see a full version of a plane. It very well could have been a missile. there's a lot to unpack on this. So I am a simple man that is a server. I am not a engineer. I'm not a scientist. I'm not an astronaut. I'm not any of these things. But I have my opinions, and I will tell you. It is very hard for me to believe a building that size. I myself, I went in the Empire State Building. I did not go in the Freedom Tower, but I saw the Freedom Tower up close. And when you see these buildings up close, it's phenomenal. To be inside the elevator of the Empire State Building was incredible. For the amount of time you're in the elevator, to realize how many stories that you've gone up. And then when you get up on top of it and you look down, you're like, wow, holy shit. Is this safe? How did someone create this? To think that a fire in the middle of the building, it's almost impossible for me to believe, okay? It's impossible for me to believe that a fire burnt the middle of the building to where it collapsed straight down on itself. I have to assume that they had their reasons. I don't know what the reasons are. We immediately got into a war that was profitable for at least the government. The armed forces will tell you that that was not a bad thing. They got a huge budget increase because now we're going to war. War does other things too, where it brings the country together. I think we can all attest to that. In 2001, when that happened, there was not a single person that blamed George W. Bush for attacking the Baghdad that night that he did. He did not have the okay from everybody that he needed. He did not have the full permission of the Senate or whoever he was supposed to have. And he just went and did it. And the American people didn't bat an eye. I didn't bat an eye. I thought, if that's who did this, let's go kill them. But then, you know, more strange things of, was he trying to finish his dad's war from the Gulf War? Was he trying to just go and get Saddam because his dad didn't? Why did we go into Iraq if it was Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan and the Taliban? Why did we, they were maybe aiding Osama bin Laden, but it wasn't necessarily Saddam Hussein that did the attack. But we said there were weapons of mass destruction over there. We could see them with binoculars. So we walked over and said, oh, that's not a weapon of mass destruction. It's a camel. And we just killed everybody anyways. A lot unknown, lot that I'm trying to unpack for you, but I don't know, man. The Tower 7 that fell literally on its own. You can tell me there were fires all around there, but it literally fell on its own. The footage that is hard to find now of people being interviewed saying, there was the crash and we're all watching it, and then the bombs went off. And then we heard the bombs go off. And then we heard the bombs go off. Okay, well, that's a little dicey on what were the bomb, and then the buildings collapsed after the bombs went off. The bombs went off. You can say to me, oh, that was the structure collapsing on itself and it just sounded that loud. You can say that was fires, that the inside of the building was collapsing in on itself. So there were huge structures that were falling on the inside before you saw the outside fall. That's even harder for me to believe. I don't know the way these are engineered, but if any part of the middle fell out from this building, I have to assume you would see a collapse somewhere else. But it literally looked like it was demolished. Like how when they set off the demolish and it just boop, 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 and then you let them all go. That's what it looked like. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why George W. acted so calm when they whispered in his ear in front of those kids. There's a lot of questions of how these men even got on planes. A lot of questions, a lot of unknown, a lot that I'm touching on people that died. So it's a very sensitive subject. There are people that are connected to this that will never listen to this conspiracy. I don't know if we ever actually will get the truth on this because I think it is so convoluted. Maybe it was a conspiracy of many different things happening at once. Maybe not only did the Taliban actually have this plan, but maybe the NSA or the CIA, the FBI, they found out about it and maybe helped the whole process along because of all the other things I named, because they wanted to go to war, because they wanted to bring the country together, because they blah, 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 blah. I don't know. But what I do know is it did not look like a natural thing to me. It did not seem like, oh yeah, this is just what would happen if you ran a plane into a building. I just, it's hard for me to believe that. So 9/11's a touchy one, but I'm definitely on board with that conspiracy. I definitely believe that has some merit to you need to look into it before you just go, no, that's what happened. And the next one I have on there is the Illuminati. I don't know if they're called the Illuminati, but I definitely believe that there are, you look at the Masons, there are groups, foundations, there are secret organizations that exist. I don't think that's hard to wrap your head around. I think that's a pretty straightforward idea. I think that most people would agree with you on that. I don't know if they're called Illuminati, but I know there's a secret. I mean, what was the one that Alex Jones said that he went to? He went to the group of I lost it, but yeah, I mean, there are definitely secret groups out there, and the Illuminati definitely could be one. And it doesn't go out of my mind to say, oh, well, what? None of them have ever spoke up. Somebody might have, and they might not have made it out of it alive. Who knows? But Illuminati, I'm on board with that. Chemtrails, man, this one's dark and deep, and the more you look into it, the more you think about it, you're like, wow, is that really what's going on? The weather is very unpredictable. I live here in Houston, where it's hot as balls all the time. We get these random showers of rain that come in. We get hurricanes that come in. We've had, Hurricane Harvey, which did a lot of destruction. We've had some interesting things happen in this city. Is the government out there spraying things in the air to control the weather? Again, I'm not a scientist, but I see why they would want to. I get the reasoning, and I get that. They definitely want to control. They want control. Just like with bitch-ass COVID that just showed up. They want control. They want to put you in a where they consider it, they have us under their control. The quarantine, the masks, all of that was a test to see what will they do. Okay, so if we put a virus out there, we can get enough of them to freak out that we shut down the fucking country, which has done. Good job on the stimulus checks that you handed out. Look what it fucking did to the country. They just want control. They don't want to give it back. So if they do start any of these things like chemtrails or whatever, they're not going to stop doing it. They're just going to keep doing it. So I don't know why they would want this. I don't know what benefit they would get from controlling either controlling the weather, or the other concept is too that the chemtrails they're spraying stuff in the air to get into our lungs and to give people cancer, to give people whatever it is, growth. Some people think that that's what they were doing in America, where they were going around spraying HGH and shit in the air so that we would become bigger, faster, and stronger. I'm on board. I can get behind it. But that one's tough. That one's tough for me to understand. Another one that's tough for me to understand. I've talked about this for 30 minutes. It's hilarious. Another one that's tough for me to understand is that people are talking about birds. Are birds real? And are there drones instead of birds? That all the birds are drones, and they're controlled by the American government just to watch over us. Wow. I like it. I like when people go here. Do I think that all birds are drones? No, I don't think so. I think that's very far-fetched. That's very hard to believe. It's almost impossible for me to believe. Not totally impossible, but almost impossible. I'll say that I could wrap my head around that maybe you infiltrate like one bird into a group of birds. I don't know how the other birds wouldn't be like, what's up with this guy? Like, he doesn't say much, and I don't ever see him eating anything, but this bird's a little strange. Also, people shoot birds. So if we're saying that, it's not the birds that you hunt, it's just like pigeons and shit like that, people kill those too. So hard for me to say that there hasn't been somebody that shot a robot bird down out of the sky and went, oh my God, look at this. But that being said, I hope so. I hope there's a hunter out there that kills a robot bird and lets me see it on the internet. That'd be fantastic. So that's what I'm hoping for. Let's see, 29 minutes on conspiracy theories. Exactly what you were looking for on your fantasy football podcast. Do you see my finger? Fucking subscribe. Let's fucking go. Suck it, algorithm. Let's go to the second down. Second down. So, Deshaun Watson. It has come down the pipe that Deshaun Watson was getting 6 games from this judge that privately investigated the situation. That is the most that she could give him. There was, I guess, there was something that was in there that I read that she could have chose to give him a whole year, but she would have had to go through all these different steps, and it's not what the CBA agreed. The players' union would have immediately sued, and it would have been a whole big thing. But she knew if I give him 6, which is the max that I can give him underneath the sexual assault silo of this collective bargaining agreement, that then Roger Goodell can do what he does, where he is going to appeal, and I would assume he's going to go for a whole year. I say that. I don't know. Maybe it's half a year. Maybe it's 8 games. But my guess is that it's the whole year. Again, we talked about it a little bit last week. It comes up more and more. I mean, do I think that what he did was creepy and weird? Yes. Do I think it was wrong? Yes. Do I think that it was illegal? I mean, if he wasn't grabbing hands and putting them on cocks, if he wasn't forcing girls' heads down, it's hard for me to say, yeah, that was wrong. That was illegal. It makes me question the Browns for this year, especially fantasy football wise. Right now, I have them in my question mark area, which we will get to. But they're rapidly, if there is no Deshaun Watson for the entire year, they will move into the I will not draft any Brown. I don't want Amari Cooper. I don't want Nick Chubb. I definitely don't want Kareem Hunt. I put him on here too. Bad sign for a running back to say, I want out of here, and for them to say no. Because that's what just happened. Recently, within the last 2 days, Kareem Hunt requested a trade from the Cleveland Browns, and they told him no. I understand why they told him no, because if you are not the leader of the team, a.k.a. the quarterback, or a star defensive player, or a star receiver maybe. I mean, I guess you could be a star running back. You could be Derrick Henry or somebody like that. Jonathan Taylor might have that kind of power. But Kareem Hunt does not. And so he can ask for that shit all he wants, but it's like, no, I'm not going to. No. You're a running back. You're a dime a dozen. Like, we will find another running back. At least that's how the Browns feel. I think Kareem Hunt's really good, and I think they need him for that 1-2 punch of Nick Chubb. None of that matters if it's Jacoby Brissett. Which is why if Deshaun Watson is out for a year, I will move on from Cleveland and not draft a single Cleveland Brown. I'm not high on many of the Cleveland Browns either. Even if Deshaun does play, I think it makes Amari Cooper a better pickup, but not a lock, not a top tier. And I don't think Amari Cooper is that anyways. I never have been big on Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper will play 1 down, then he's got to go sit down for 3, then he comes out and he plays another down, then he goes out for a half a game, then he comes back in after he's been in the trainer's fucking little thing forever. He just loves getting taped up. That's all it is. Fuck you. Fuck the Cowboys too. I just thought I'd throw that in there. But yeah, the Browns, man, is it going to end up working out? I guess that's the question if you're a Browns fan. Yes, this year is kind of a wash. I think the Browns ownership accepted that. That's why they gave him that the contract where he only is going to lose $1 million from the first year or whatever it is. But are they going to win a Super Bowl? Now, here's the thing. To me, Deshaun Watson is a top 5 quarterback. The minute he steps back on and there's a lot of good fucking quarterbacks. I'm putting him above Justin Herbert. I'm putting him above Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott. He's above all of that. The only people that he's not above are the Tom Brady's, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. I think Joe Burrow's sniffing his heels, but I think Deshaun's still ahead of Joe Burrow. And he's ahead of Justin Herbert and those other guys I named too, because I've seen it proven in the playoffs. I've seen him come back and beat Josh Allen. I've seen some incredible feats from Deshaun Watson with not a lot around him. It's not like the Texans were constantly giving him the best of the best. This was him piecing it together with whatever he could with just DeAndre Hopkins. So, I think the Browns eventually will say this was a win, especially because they've had such turmoil at that quarterback position for so long. And I think that they do well next year. Obviously, this year, not so much. But next year, I think the Browns are a much better team. They're fighting Cincinnati for that division. But I am not going to be a Browns draftee. I will not draft a lot of Browns this year because there's a lot of question marks around them. There's a couple of teams like this that have a lot of off-season turmoil that makes you kind of go, ugh, I don't know. Arizona being one of them. But Cleveland right now, they are moving into my do not draft new strategy, which I will get to you later. But yeah, Deshaun Watson, 6 games. I would imagine it goes to a full year. I'm rooting for Deshaun Watson. I wanted him to get out of Houston because I realized that we are not anywhere near a Super Bowl, and he needed to get a little closer because he is an all-time great as far as the position goes. When you think of Big Ben, I don't know if the first thing that comes to your mind is what he did. I don't know if that's what will follow this guy around for his whole career. If he wins, it definitely will go away. If he wins, you'll see more and more of that narrative kind of disappear because it'll just be about his play on the field. So we'll see what happens. But Kareem Hunt, I'm out on. And if there's no Deshaun Watson, I'm out on Nick Chubb and Amari Cooper. I don't really know who else you would want from that team. If you're talking about later, you want David Njoku or Donovan Peoples-Jones. I'm not happy about it. You do what you want, but I'm probably going to steer clear of the Browns. Moving on. 3rd down. Kevin Durant. Kevin Pissant Pussy Puss. That's what Kevin Puss Puss. That's what I'm going to call him for right now. He is... I don't think I have a basketball player that I hate more. And hate's a strong word, but just what you are as a basketball player is not enough for me to look past all of the pussiness that is inside of you. The fact that he has burner accounts because he can't handle people saying things about him and he's got to go out there and talk shit. The fact that now it's come out that what he's told Brooklyn was that he wanted the GM and the coach gone. The coach being future Hall of Famer, if he's not already in the Hall of Fame, Steve Nash. And the GM, his name is Sai, whatever his name is. But what? I know that there are people that are going to say, as a LeBron fan that I am, that are going to tell me, oh, well, LeBron's got plenty of coaches fired and, he's destroyed teams and blah, 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 blah. I don't know where you got the proof of that. It's not like you ever saw LeBron demanding a trade because he wasn't happy with the future of the... LeBron's moves every single time in free agency have been very organic. He has let it play out wherever he was at. Even right now with LA, he hasn't signed the extension and he's letting it play out. He's had conversations that we will never know about, unlike bitch-ass Kevin Durant, Kevin Pissant. And it's just hilarious to me. Like, what do you think the next team is going to think about Kevin Durant? Do we really think that another team is going to sign him and be like, oh, yeah, this is the savior of our team? No, they're going to be nervous as fuck. I'm not saying that the next team won't trade for him because somebody will. There will be some team that will be like, oh, this is what's going to help us get over the hump. But in the back of that owner's mind, they've got to be like, think about the Warriors. He's already burned you once. Y'all were together. You won 2 championships. Everything is good, hunky-dory. He gets in a little bit of an altercation with Draymond Green, which I could argue, I would say most people, including Steve Kerr, Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, have probably gotten into a little argument with Draymond Green at some point. He's a fiery guy. He's the heart and soul of the defense. He's the reason that team is what they are, I believe. I believe if you don't have Draymond Green and you have some other power forward, that team is not a dynasty. So very interesting that, but again, if you're the Warriors, why do you want this back? We just won a championship. We have a good young core. We have a great young core. We have a group. We have James Wiseman, who was the second overall pick, and he's never even fucking played. He never even played one fucking time this year. We have him coming back. We have Mooney coming back. You know, we have all these people that are very, very good. We still have Kuminga. We still have Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins. I just don't know why you would make that. You just won the championship. I don't know why we would want Kevin Durant. I don't know why the Phoenix Suns would want to give up a bunch of young, good players and first-round picks to pair together Devin Booker, who honestly needs a dog. He doesn't need a skinny bitch. He needs a dog. He needs a Jimmy Butler. He needs somebody with him who's I just thought about Jimmy Butler and Devin Booker on the same team. Can you imagine that? But yeah, I'm not big on Kevin Durant. I never have been. I never will be. And this last thing that I just heard about the GM, Steve Nash, if you're a Kevin Durant fan, there is something wrong with you, because you are not watching basketball to just enjoy basketball. You're watching basketball for some weird, like, oh, I need to walk around with a scowl on my face and a pussy on my hip. Like, that's what he is. He's a pussy hip, foul, scowl face, fuckarama boy fuck Kevin Durant, fuck the algorithm. Next. Fourth down. Baseball. Baseball's coming to an end. Baseball is wrapping up here. We're getting to the end of the season. Some stuff, in my opinion, is set in stone. It's very funny that the central divisions in both the AL and the NL are not set in stone. But the AL East, the AL West, the NL East, and the NL West, those things are a wrap. Go ahead and wrap a bow up on it and send it off. The Yankees and the Astros dominating their divisions. The Dodgers are dominating their division. And the Mets are 7 games up on the Braves right now. So I'm not going to sit here and say it's completely out of reach, but the Mets are very good, especially with the way DeGrom just came back. DeGrom looked terrifying. And the fact that you have DeGrom and Scherzer and Bassett and some of that lineup on the Mets is very, very good. Minnesota is only a game up on Cleveland. I don't know who wins that division. It doesn't fucking matter. None of these teams. The ALCS is set. It's the New York Yankees versus the Houston fucking Astros, and the Houston Astros own the New York Yankees, so I've never been more excited for us to go back to the World Series. But Minnesota's not beating any of these teams. Cleveland's not beating any of these teams. And the only ones that I'll give a shot to are these wild card teams like Toronto and Tampa Bay. Even Seattle is technically in the wild card right now. Those 3 teams, I have them definitely beating Minnesota and Cleveland. And I think they're going to be a hard out, all of them. Toronto doesn't really have the pitching. I don't understand Tampa Bay. I don't know how they do this every single year. I know that they have good players, but every single year they're here, they're a hard out, they're in contention, they're a good record, and Toronto and Tampa Bay are definitely in. I think Seattle is fighting for that last wild card spot because Baltimore is only 1 game behind. How funny is that the entire AL East could go to the playoffs, other than Boston? But that's just a bizarre stat that everybody from the NL East is pretty good. Even Boston's 4.5 games out of the wild card, and they're not a terrible team. I know that they've traded some pieces away, like Christian Vasquez. Welcome to the Astros. But yeah, Baltimore's a game back on the wild card. Cleveland's a game back on Minnesota in the AL. I think this one's all but set. I think Minnesota probably should win that. You'll get some wild card games of, let's see, that would make Seattle play Minnesota at this point, and Tampa Bay and Toronto would play against each other. Houston and New York would get the bye. Let me just do that math real quick. I honestly don't think Minnesota could beat Seattle. I think Seattle might win that. And Tampa Bay, Toronto, that's tough. I'll go with Tampa Bay at this moment just because Toronto has kind of skidded a little bit. That being said, any of those 4 teams, they don't stand a shot. The next team that they face will be Houston and New York, and they're going to get fucking stomped. There's no stopping us. Yankees did just lose Carpenter, though. I like that a lot. I like the fact that y'all got hurt. Fuck the Yankees. And, I think the ALCS is all but set. I also think the same thing could be said over there in those 2 teams that I said were dominating the NL, the Mets and the Dodgers. That should be your NLCS. I don't want to count the Cardinals out because the Cardinals have now taken that division over of Milwaukee, who made some very questionable calls as far as trades that they did. And they are 2 games up right now in the NL Central. We have Atlanta, who I told you is 7 games back of the Mets, but they are number 1 in the wild card. They will probably definitely lock a spot. Philly has come on as of recently and played really well. And San Diego Padres, after trading for Juan Soto and having this 3-headed monster, which we haven't really got to see yet because Tatis hasn't played. When Tatis does play, holy shit, that's a very tough 3, but honestly, other than that 3, they're not very scary, and their pitching is nothing to write home about. So I don't think the Dodgers or the Mets are afraid of the Padres. But going forward, if they are able to pick up some pitchers and kind of fill out the rest of that squad, that 3-headed monster of Juan Soto, Machado, and Tatis, which I said Machado was on the Dodgers. I just say things, I don't know. I'm looking around here and I've got a little thing, and I'm just, but yeah. So baseball. I think I covered it all. Milwaukee is 1 game back of the wild card, meaning that if they did not win their division, there's a chance they probably will miss the playoffs. San Francisco is 5.5 games back, and I think it's after that it's a joke. So I think those are the only teams that are even close to sniffing back in there. But let's go ahead and play this game. The Cardinals win their division, so then they're going to play the Padres. That's actually a really interesting matchup. I don't know. Atlanta and Philly, another very interesting matchup. I don't know that either. But I do know that coming out of that, the Mets and the Dodgers should beat both of those teams. Should. In the AL, I'm all but certain. In the NL, it's more of a question mark, and it's going to be tighter games, I believe. But the AL is going to be Houston, New York Yankees, ALCS. Jot it down. But baseball coming to an end. You're out. Fifth down, right? That's how it goes. Fantasy football. Oh, that's right. That's why you're here. So I thought I would talk a little bit about my new strategy going into this year, and maybe you could adopt it for yourself. We talked about it last week, where I have broken all of the teams down into teams I will not draft from, because I think they're going to be bad teams with bad offenses and also bad defenses that are getting beat up a lot, which then doesn't help your offense. Now you're down by 30 and you're the Atlanta Falcons. You can't air it out with Marcus Mariota. You're going to be in deep shit. So I changed it up a little bit from last week. I have 8 teams in my do not draft. I have 11 teams in my question mark, and then I have 13 teams that I absolutely will draft from. And that was kind of surprising to me. I thought that the numbers of bad teams would be more than the good teams, but the fact that I have 13 teams that I feel 100% comfortable drafting from makes me feel better with this strategy. We talked about it last week a little bit, but I'll tell you where I made some additions, and it was New England. Houston, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Carolina, Giants, Bears, Seahawks. Those were the 7 that I had from last week that were no-goes for me. I stand by that. I also have told you that Cleveland could easily become my 9th, but my 8th was New England, because the more that I sat and thought about it, who the fuck do I want from New England? Who? I mean, Devontae Parker is going to be their new number 1, but they've still got Jacoby Myers, and they've got, all these other players. They've got the Hunter Henry and the running back committees, Mac Jones. I also think that New England has a tough schedule, and I could see them losing a lot of games this year. I could see Mac Jones maybe taking a step back. I know everyone's up talking big on him in training camp, but I'm just not on board. I'm not going to get on board with New England this year. So I'm going to add them to my I will not draft from them. And what that means is that when you're looking at the best available, as I'm doing my mock drafts, it kind of helps me because then I go, okay, so if up at the top are all of these Falcons and Panthers and Steelers and Houston Texans, but then I get to like a Charger, like I think the best example is in the tight end position because you are going to get a lot of tight ends from that group. Freiermuth, Kyle Pitts, what's his name from the Seahawks, Noah Fant, Hunter Henry. You're going to get a lot of tight ends that you go, oh, well, they're a good tight end, like they're a good fantasy football tight end. I'm going to skip because of how I feel about the team. And that's something that I didn't do last year when I drafted 2 Pittsburgh Steelers that were starters on my team of Chase Claypool and Najee Harris. And Pittsburgh had a bad year. I know they ended up making the playoffs, but you look at them offensively, they started off so terrible that it started off me in a hole. Nobody should draft Chase Claypool ever again, by the way, in the history of the football. But yeah, I think those 8 teams are the bad teams, and I think that this is a new strategy that I'm going to give a shot. I'm going to give it a shot this year. In all my mock drafts, I think what happens too is that I look at them and go, they're on a good team, they're on a good team, they're on a good team. Okay, maybe McCole Hardman isn't, Brandon Cooks, but I would say most of the time you're going to want somebody that's on a good offense. Let's just also say that on these good teams, let's say Stephon Diggs goes down. Well, now Gabriel Davis, he's the man. He is the fucking man. So I would rather Gabriel Davis over somebody on one of these bad teams. Deontay Johnson on the Pittsburgh Steelers. You can draft him if you want. Who's throwing him the fucking ball? You can draft Drake London if you want off the Falcons. Who's throwing him the fucking ball? So that's the reasoning behind Cleveland too. If it's Jacoby Brissett, I don't want that because he's not going to take them to the promised land or be a good offense. My question marks grew substantially. Last week it was a little smaller. And then once talking about it, I realized there are definitely teams that I need to add to that. Detroit, Jacksonville, Dallas, Cleveland right now, that's with the Deshaun Watson clause in there. Baltimore, Jets, Titans, Cardinals, Packers, Saints, and the Washington Redskins. The Washington Redskins, you heard me. Yeah, so I think I stand by all of those. I think there are some that people are going to go, what? Like Arizona, Green Bay, that I would question. But again, out of those 2 teams that I just named, who are you drafting off of those teams? Okay, let's start with Green Bay. Obviously, if you're in a pinch, you don't really value the quarterback position that much, but you get to a point where you're ready to draft a quarterback and Aaron Rodgers is there. I get it. Aaron Jones, I get it. Receiver-wise, I don't know. I know I put Christian Watson on a list of very intriguing people because somebody got to catch these balls and somebody is going to catch Aaron Rodgers' balls, but I don't know who it's going to be. I don't trust Alan Lazard. I don't trust Robert Tonyan. His other options are Sammy Watkins and Randall Cobb. So both of those gentlemen are in their 40s, I would imagine, in football years. And I'm more question mark than I am, oh yeah, that's a good team that was for sure going to kill it on offense. I think they struggle. I think, as I told you on my picks, I've got them going 10-7. And I get it, and I wouldn't not do it. That's what the question mark team means too. If I'm in a bind, sure, I'll draft from these teams if I have to. But I don't want to, and I want to stick to my check mark teams, which are who I believe are going to be the best teams in the league, like Buffalo, Los Angeles Rams, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Philadelphia Eagles, the Bengals, the Dolphins, the Colts, the Chiefs, the Raiders, the Chargers, the Broncos, the 49ers, and lastly, and I had moments with it, but I believe it is a good call, is the Minnesota Vikings. There's a lot to value in the Minnesota Vikings just because of Justin Jefferson alone. You wouldn't not draft Justin Jefferson. He's going to go in the first round. And even Kirk Cousins. I mean, Kirk Cousins, fantasy football-wise, has put up good numbers in the past. I think he will again. I'm more if Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry and Ezekiel Elliott and Saquon Barkley are that used car that's on their way out the door. I think Dalvin Cook is maybe I'm holding back a little bit of hope that he doesn't get hurt as much this year. Probably a long shot for that to become true, but I just thought, yes, Minnesota's a good team, and I would draft somebody from Minnesota, so I put them on the list. But yeah, I like the system as I'm doing mock drafts. Kind of make a list for yourself, see what you think are going to be the best teams on there, and just kind of tell yourself, like, don't draft from this team because they're going to be bad, and see where you're at the end of a mock draft. Maybe you don't love it. Maybe you're like, no, I'm going to go with the best available, even if that is somebody on the Steelers or if it is somebody on the Panthers. But for me, not so much. Overtime! I wanted to do this a little bit, just a little bit each week. I'll go over a different position of people that I think are intriguing and could be late round sleepers. We have the obvious, right? Like in the receiver core, I don't need to go through all the Jamar Chases and Cooper Kupps and Justin Jeffersons. Y'all know those names. But when you get deeper into it and you start getting into those later rounds where people go, oh, I don't know what to do now, I want you to have some information, and that's why you came here. You came here to find out about John F. Kennedy being shot, and you came here to find out about some fantasy fucking football. So here's a group of receivers that I have chosen as my sleepers, as people that I think will give good value. You also notice all of these people are on my, actually, some of them are on my question mark teams, but none of them are on my bad teams. Juju, Kansas City is not dead in the water because of one man. Not Tyreek Hill did not leave and they went, oh, well, we might as well not even play. They will continue to play. They are a good team. And Juju is... he's going to find himself open. You know, Travis Kelce's going to get attention. They have other receivers. McCole Hardman is going to be good. I have him on here as well from Kansas City. Sky Moore, another one that I put on here. Basically, even Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I don't love it because I've seen him drop a lot of balls. I don't love him as a receiver. But all of those four from the Kansas City Chiefs is not a bad idea to draft from because he's going to continue to throw the ball. They're going to be a good team, and they're going to win games. They're going to score points. I'm in on all that. Sky Moore is definitely one of my ones that I'm going to reach for. If you watch his combine, he looks like a little mini Tyreek Hill. He's fast as shit. He seems durable for his size. Rookie receivers are tough, but I like Sky Moore, and I think I would go with it if I had to. Gabriel Davis on Buffalo. I already said his name once. He at the end of the year was fucking killing it, more so than Stephon Diggs. It seemed that Diggs was getting double covered. Dawson Knox was a problem, and once he came back into the lineup, it was like Gabriel Davis was getting one-on-ones, and he was killing it. They said that he's come back in great shape. I already have told you that I think Buffalo will have one of the best records in the league, so I think Gabriel Davis is a great pickup. Jamison Crowder is somebody else that they picked up on the Bills. I have him on here as well. Both of those from the Bills, very nice pickups that I think could easily, and again, I don't want to call this on Stephon Diggs. Let's just say Stephon Diggs goes out. Both of those players, huge jump where they become wide receiver ones. Maybe not Crowder, but Crowder's going to be a great slot in that system. Rashad Bateman of the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore is one of my question mark teams, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'd be crazy about it because it would be like, oh, okay, I'm not crazy about Lamar Jackson as a passer. But with Marquise Brown leaving, he has no one else. He has no one else to go to. He has no other receiver. I could not tell you another receiver. I almost said that, Dunerve or whatever his name is. It doesn't matter. he's got Mark Andrews, and he's got this guy. So the law of, what's it called? Elimination is that he will eventually get some balls thrown into his mouth. No, but he will eventually catch some balls. And I think that it's a good pickup, especially in later rounds. Somebody that I've talked about a lot is Russell Gage. I think is a huge pickup by Tampa Bay. He was a great slot receiver for Atlanta, who Atlanta is not that good of a team, and Matt Ryan is not that good of a quarterback, as we've seen in the Super Bowl where Tom Brady did what Tom Brady did. I just wanted to bring that up. Matt Ryan's not bad. I have the Colts winning their division, but I just love to bring up the fact when Arthur Blank and his wife are standing over there on the sidelines holding hands going, I thought we were going to win the Super Bowl. But yeah, Russell Gage and Julio Jones are both on my list here. I think both of them contribute big. Tom Brady spreads the ball around. Chris Godwin might not be 100% week one. So obviously Mike Evans is going to get his touches, but they're going to throw the ball. He threw the ball a lot last year. He apparently has really connected well with Russell Gage. And Todd Bowles saying that Julio Jones is essentially going to step into the Gronk role, give me a 10-yard in, stop and get open. Whew. I can imagine him catching a couple of touchdown passes, and there's incentives built into his plan, which Tom Brady is fully aware of and probably going to go hard on. Let's see. Christian Watson, I brought him up recently about Green Bay. Somebody's got to catch all these balls, and he's a big-bodied receiver that I think Aaron Rodgers is really going to like. So I could see him being valuable as well. And the last one on here, he's really low on the list as far as the ESPN rankings, but he just kind of jumps out at me because of the DeAndre Hopkins situation. Marquise Brown was traded to the Cardinals, and I know that Marquise Brown will be that go route. He will kind of take over the role of Christian Kirk. But as far as a slot receiver goes, or a number two, Rondale Moore, last year, towards the end of the year, he was a rookie, but he kind of came on at the end of the year, and he played really well. And second year usually is where they prove themselves. I could just see in the first couple of games, Rondale Moore having a nice little run. So if you draft him late, let's say he goes off on your bench for 2 or 3 weeks in a row, now this is nice trade bait. At least that's my plan with Rondale Moore. I'm definitely going to scoop him up if he's there on one of my last picks. I think it's a good safety valve, too, for Kyler Murray, who might need it. Oh, man, a yawn. I'm putting you to sleep. I'm putting me to sleep. I think Rondale Moore, I think Christian Kirk, you could argue on Jacksonville is going to be another nice pickup, but I wouldn't do it. I'm not sold on Jacksonville as a passing team yet. I do like Travis Etienne Jr., but we'll get to that as my sleeper running backs for next week. And if there's more conspiracy theories you want me to talk about, put them in the comments. Subscribe down below. Tell DraftKings to back the Brink truck up. I keep calling them. They don't answer. I don't know what the fuck is going on. Enter the promo code. Please give us a Brinks truck. And fuck the algorithm. And I love you for listening. An hour by myself. I never doubted myself. Boy's got the gift of gab. I'll gab all over your nuts. I don't know what that meant, but I love you. And we'll see you next week. Fuck off.